It is now 3:30. Hi, Deborah. So my name is Kegan Witzki. I am a co-founder and editor of Greener Pastures magazine. It started as a COVID project. A lot of us met during Second City's online satire writing program through Second City. And after we finished that program, we were trying to submit to a lot of the places that you usually would, such as, for example, McSweeney's, Points in Case, Weekly Humorist. And for some reason, we had made really funny pieces, but no one seemed to really like them. And so Amy, who's a co-founder, said, well, what if we just start our own magazine? And one of our teachers, Brooke Preston, who I'm very grateful for in life, has become a really great friend of mine. She really helped guide us through how to actually do this thing. And it's been extremely rewarding to not only, Amy Curl. Thank you, Deborah. She is not able to be here today, but yes, exactly. So she can't be here today, but I'm very grateful to be able to speak on behalf of everybody that's here. I'm glad to be able to speak for everybody for Greener Pastures who can't be here. That includes like Teresa, Ash, Kate, Brett, and Michael, and Cassie, who is in the hospital right now, Cassie Soliday. So if anyone knows or is able to reach out, please send them a lot of love and supporting words. This had COVID. And, hi, Amy. So here's what's going to happen, by the way, today. So instead of a normal Q&A, as the title prompt says, I thought it would be really beneficial if anyone who wanted to have any kind of comedic sense or wanted to get more into satire writing to see what it's like from the editor's point of view when we're reading your pieces. Therefore, you can be able to build up a lot more skill as you start going through your own pieces and be able to see, oh, I can see how I can make this stronger. And this doesn't have to apply to satire writing as well. It can be for anyone who's thinking about writing more humor. And this is a great way because when you add any kind of humor into your piece, it always adds a little spark of surprise, at least from my opinion. And I'm very excited to be able to be here today. I'm very excited to be able to speak for everybody today. It's an extreme honor. We've been with Medium for 3 years. And so this is just crazy how this just happened so unexpectedly. So without further ado, I've selected 2 pieces that came in this past week. And one of them was a rewrite. And one of them asked if we could be able to review their piece for today. And so this is going to be fantastic. Oh, hey, what's up, T-Kent? It's good to see you, man. So with that, by the way, their names have been kept out just to keep their anonymity. But you'll be able to see as we read through, just you can get a sense of what you think is working well. And then you can see what it's like from my point of view as an editor, where we would make suggestions for changes, etc. So let me share the screen here. There we go. So this came in. This was technically a rewrite. It is the title, as you can see, 20 prop bets you can place on the Zuckerberg-Musk cage fight. If nobody knows, Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk apparently have agreed to fight each other in a cage match in Greece, in Athens specifically. This is very real, weirdly enough, to social media tycoons deciding to brawl each other out. And it's already a fantastic title. And originally, when I was given this piece, there was a lot of exposition before it. And when it comes down to this kind of piece, which is a list piece essentially each line of like a number 1, 2, 3, etc. It's its own thing and it's a joke. And it supports to whatever the prompt is that you're giving. For example, what kind of bets would you place on this kind of fight? So what I'll be doing is I'm just going to be reading through it, and then I'll show you my edits and talk to you through what I felt like could make this piece a little stronger. So as we read through, 20 prompt bets you can place on the Zuckerberg-Musk fight. Who's your money on? Number 1, the tickets to the fight will go for a humble $6,000 a seat, plus 400. 2, the fight will be streamed exclusively on Facebook Live, plus 200. 3, some crazy person online will claim that the fight is simply designed to distract the American people from something else, aliens, nuclear war, climate change, etc. Plus 100. 4, Logan Paul will attend the fight so he can see someone other than himself get knocked out. Controversial. Plus 315. 5, Musk and Zuckerberg will assert that a portion of the fight's profits will go to some phony charity that claims to give computers to poor people. Plus 200. 6, before the fight starts, Musk will say something corny along the lines of, "Don't break a nail, pretty boy." The internet will subsequently never let him live it down. Plus 200. 7, either Zuckerberg or Musk will burst out into tears as soon as the first punch is thrown. Plus 350. 8, Trump will be there for some reason with a vacant-eyed, "I have no idea what's going on," Melania by his side. Oh, that should have been her voice, but it's fine. 9, Zuckerberg's entrance song will be some sort of Radiohead EDM remix. Plus 150. 10, Musk's entrance song will be that rap song Elon Musk featuring Gunna. Plus 150, which it's on social media a lot if nobody knows. 11, a lizard will climb out of either tech billionaire's mouth and forfeit on behalf of their human host. Plus 100. It's a gray line. 12, both parties will wear the same outfit to the fight and consequently blurt out simultaneously, "Well, someone's got to change." Plus 300. 13, at the beginning of the fight, Zuckerberg will take off his shirt, revealing his chiseled six-pack. He will then angrily throw the shirt to the side, flex every muscle in his body, and yell, "Not so nerdy now, huh, Jesse Eisenberg?" Plus 200. 14, Musk's ex-partner, Grimes, will make a weird electro-pop song about the fight. The lyrics will be incomprehensible. Plus 500. 15, the two men will wrestle each other to the ground. Then there will be a prolonged pause as they stare deeply into each other's eyes. They will then proceed to make out passionately for no longer than 10 minutes. If over 10 minutes, the bet becomes invalid. Plus 150. The loser will throw a tantrum, throw himself on the floor, and scream out, "Not fair, not fair, not fair." Plus 300. 17. Musk will increase the stakes by telling his opponent that if he wins, Zuckerberg has to get rid of Threads. If Zuckerberg wins, he gets to rename Twitter Zuck.com. Plus 600. 18. Zuckerberg will accidentally let out a tiny high-pitched fart. Plus 250. 19. Musk will throw up a little bit in his mouth and then swallow it. Plus 200. 20. Eisenberg will run out of the arena with tears in his eyes after Zuckerberg yells, "Not so nerdy, huh, Jesse Eisenberg?" Later on, he will tweet, "It was just a movie, bro," with a bunch of sad face emojis. Plus 125. So, oh, thank you, Deborah. I just saw this. Thank you. And yes, the lizard line is my absolute favorite from all of this. So, as you're reading through, just think of to yourself, like, what are some things that you feel like stood out, and what are some things that you feel like could have been improved? So in comedy, if you're starting out, one of the things we talk about a lot is tightening. Tightening is essentially taking a line that you have that could be long and making it shorter. And taking away a lot of the extra fat, a lot of extra words or verbs that may not be needed, and to be able to get the most concise thought out into a simple line. And then we also say this phrase, punch up, which is basically have like a few different rounds of your joke to be able to amplify it a bit more to make it stronger. And sometimes punching it up goes, yeah, so it's interesting. Deborah, you're saying lose throwing up in your mouth. But what's interesting, I'll show you, there's something we can do, which is basically like revamping it. So let me show you, since we're here, let me show you some things I made. So the red are the things that I would tweak. So with most Medium publications, you have the tag at the top, and it says "Fight of the Century." For some reason, we get a lot of this and when people are starting to send things over, what makes it easier for people to find your piece is to get it straight to the point, like cartoon, humor, satire. So for me, I would change it to humor, so that way the tag is consistent. So whenever somebody looks up humor when they're looking for something, it gets straight to your piece. And if it's popular, it might be brought up so more people can read it. And I say up here, cut to 12, meaning 12 prop bets. And I'll tell you why, because there were some I believe that could be cut, and then some I think could just be revamped. And then who's your money on? So what's interesting about subtitles is a lot of people, yes, tags. Thank you, Susan. So what's interesting is, and yes, someone said, is shorten this to 10 prop bets too long. What's interesting is, yes, I agree that 10 is usually a good staple. What's interesting is you can get away with 12. So I've seen people get away with 16. One of my favorite pieces I mentioned in our podcast, the Greener Pastures podcast, it was in Points and Case, and I am biased because I studied theater in school. The list, it was more of a quiz where you compare one thing to another and find the similarities between the two. But it was a list of, I believe, 16, and the title was, "Are you quiz? Are you a college theater major or suffering from depression?" And for example, like the things would be like, you constantly smoke cigarettes outside in the cold, feeling your feelings, or you're aimlessly wandering around the space and wondering what you're doing. Again, both similarities. But it was able to go through because the jokes were sharp and everything was all in the theme. So let me show you some of the props that I made. So because this is something that actually happened in real life, what I would suggest is to be able to, you see here, insert legitimate news article quote. That way, when people go back to this in time, they go, wait, was this actually a thing? So you can come from a legitimate source, think New York Times, Washington Post. You can be able to say like, yes, Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk have talked with the Greek government to be able to have a fight. This is true, I believe, in the Colosseum, which the world we live in today. So here's where, and if I don't see your comments, by the way, I will get back to it. I'm just going to go through things as I'm reading it on. By the way, one thing I'll say is with feedback, Bill Hader said something really great, which was if people give you something that they feel like isn't working, you should listen, because that means that more than one person might agree with that. If they're telling you how to fix something, take it with a grain of salt, because at the end of the day, this is your piece. And these are your words and your thoughts and the feelings. And that's what's great about writing, is you're sharing what's in your head. If you do like what someone says, just put a little positive, just put a little spin on it and how you would do it. So these are where my thoughts are. So the first one, the tickets to the fight will go for humble $6,000. That's a good one I'd keep. The second one, the fight will be streamed exclusively on Facebook Live. I feel like there should be something else there. I don't know. So I say punch up, meaning get another draft of the joke. This third one, I cut the beginning and said, the fight is simply designed to distract the American people from actual news and problems. Not only do I think that's a good edit, I actually think that should be the button, and meaning at the end. Reason why is because we're going through all these ridiculous bets, but we're forgetting what the point of view is with all this, which is this is all the distraction from the world and the craziness that's been going on. I mean, ever since 2020 and even before and now, I mean, things are absolutely wild, like the wildfires in Hawaii, etc. I mean, all these things like news articles, they're just like a magic trick trying to distract you with this nice, shiny, crazy thing, as opposed to telling you about the darkness that's going on over here. And that's the joke. And that's a great one to be like, that's a good one. Number 4, Logan Paul will attend the fight so he can see someone other than himself get knocked out. I would say punch up. If no one knows about Logan Paul, he was he was with Disney, and he became a social media person, YouTuber, who's been very controversial, saying very offensive things, and has started to box. But a lot of people speculate that he's been paying boxers, like famous retired ones, to lose in sparring matches. So people think that he's a good boxer, and for his brother, Jake Paul. So, there could be something in there. I'm not sure. Number 5, I would say cut, because there is no proof, at least that I can think of, where they are pretending to give things to charities. In fact, what's weird is, Mark is actually pretty decent, at least from what I've researched, in giving to donations and stuff. So unless there's something factual behind it, I cut it, because there's more stuff to go through. The don't break it. The next one, I would say cut, because the don't break a nail, pretty boy, it doesn't work. The only way that it could work is because Elon Musk is really awkward. Think of, if no one knows, when he was in San Francisco and Dave Chappelle introduced him, he tried to quote Dave Chappelle going, "I'm rich," and everyone booed. It's because he has no sense of like social awareness in that way of thinking he's funny, but everyone will be like, oh boy, like that is not, yeah. Yes, Lori, as I'm going back real quickly, reality check just going back real quickly. Save the punchiest for last. Yes, exactly, Sarah. And Lori, is it better to avoid insults, right? It depends. The whole point of satire, Brooke Preston said this great definition to me, which was satire is the lie that exposes the truth. Think of all Shakespeare comedy. If nobody knows, when Shakespeare did comedy, if no one knows, so the groundlings were the peasants that would sit, like the average people would stand on the ground, and then the rich people and the aristocrats would sit at the top. And so much of the time, it wasn't put in the scripts, but if you see anyone who is talking about like richness or about being poor, they first are like confining to the groundlings and then are pointing to the rich people and the queen, who would be to the actor's left. So it's like the same thing. It just depends on how you go about it. As long as it is nothing like sarcastic, which I'll get to in the next piece, it just depends on how you go about it. If it's factually based and not like a punch down, which is insulting them in like very humiliating ways and just like mean. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Insult humor is a form of humor, but just, yeah, exactly. Very good, Susan. I think that's exactly right. So moving on, just to make sure we can be able to read everything, and I really appreciate everyone being in the comments talking. This is so cool. Number 7. So either Zuckerberg or Zuck or Musk will burst out into tears as soon as the first punch is thrown. Now, here's interesting. So comedy really works well with specificity. So why I put punch up, why? So at the end of the first, either what I would say is, if I were to revamp it, why would they cry? Because it's very vague. And when you get specific, that's when people are like, oh. So for example, if I were to rewrite it, I could say something such as, either Zuckerberg or Fight will burst out in tears as soon as the first punch is thrown, knowing they're degrading part of the soul they have left to get some clout. Something like that. Or to be able to, like, they're realizing how far low they've sunken to be able to get people to like them. Because think of it, a lot of these, all they want is attention. They just want people to think they're cool. I mean, social network is a great example of that. I mean, it's not 100% true, but there is truth in that a lot of people, they just want to be validated and feel special. Number 8, I'm going to be honest, I'm so trumped out as a reader. We already hear about it, and giving more power to the voice is essentially giving them more power, whether you like it or not, ignoring them and just let a lot of people deal with it. And we've all, I believe, been trumped out, especially during the lockdown and for 2016 to 20. And the fact that they're still in the news, it's like, just please, we can do better, essentially. Number 9, Zuckerberg's entrance song will be some Radiohead EDM remix. I like that. And then I revamped for 10. And Musk's entrance song would be rapper Gunna's hit single, Elon Musk. Why did I do that? Because you want to end any of your sentences, and this works outside of just satire writing. If it's a humorous line, ending it on the important word, the joke word, Elon Musk, the fact that there's a song named after him that he plays for himself for a fight. And I would say for 9 and 10, you can combine those two. If there's a way you can do that, so that way you get a little punch and then a big punch, that is gold. Number 11, the lizard one. Love it. There's some truth to it, it feels like. Number 12, both parties. That one's very silly, so it's like, okay, that's fun. Number 13, the Jesse Eisenberg one kind of goes away from what we're talking about, so I would cut it. Number 14, I like this one because there is truth to that. So that's why I keep it. That's a great truth with comedy. If there's truth in it, you keep. Number 15, the two men will wrestle each other to the ground and then prolong. I like this one. Again, this is where I would say tighten it and punch up. And then I would also add a why to it. Like, why are they making out with each other? Is it because they're the only two people that understand where they're coming from? The fact that they're willing to fight each other for attention, like just be like, I love you more because you're the only one that gets me. So that was where I throw it up. 16, it's kind of simple. So it's just like not fair, not fair. I would cut that. 17, I like the idea of what bets they would make against each other. I feel like we could tighten this up and maybe punch up. Maybe I would change the website that Zuckerberg would want to change if he won. The get rid of threads, that one is like, oh yeah, he would say that. 18, I'd cut. I'll be honest. There's other ways you can say fart. Fart is so easy, and unfortunately, because of the Costellos and the Three Stooges, and because of just the overuse of the word, it's lost its punchline. And, you know, it's a bodily function. Everybody does it. The king does it. Excuse me. I said the queen, or wherever you are in the world, the king or the queen. So yeah, I would say that. 20 I cut, but then 19 I'll say Musk will throw up a little bit in his mouth and then swallow it, punch up, and that's another why. Why are they throwing up a little bit? Is it the fear of like, oh my God, I'm actually having to do this? Yeah. So that is where we are with this first piece. So to the writer who wrote this is this is their first revision, and this is going to be the second one. And I would say if you're willing to make some of these changes or send something back, I'd be more than happy to read along with my other team members. And very good job, honestly. A headline is a good thing to do, and at least you kept with the thread. So before I move on, I'm just going to read some of the chats that have been going on. I appreciate the laugh emoji, and thank you for the claps. I feed off this. My ego is being very happy right now. Love ignoring the Cheetos, or Stephen Colbert does your fuming. Very nice. Very cool. All right, so with that in mind, I think I'm going to go right into the next one. Yes, exactly. Real article always makes peace better. Yes, it depends. Sometimes if it's, before I move on, Kent made an interesting thing. Yes, there is funniness. There is funny things about reality because it is your truth, and real things that are happening are already crazy. So yeah, it just depends on like where you're going. Sometimes fiction can be very funny. It just takes more work. That's all. If there's something based in truth, it makes writing a piece way easier. And if there's something that you're genuinely passionate about, or like real science adventures, yes. If you like this, if you like really have a thing about them, yeah. Like for me, I actually grew up with skateboarding, and I've always wanted to write a piece about how skateboarders, even though now they are considered Olympian athletes, they are still being treated like criminals to the general public wherever they are. And it's just like, that's like something I would try to write that. And because we're kind of short on time, I'm going to kind of speed through, just kind of go through the general idea of what this next piece is, because it's a little long. But this one was actually sent to us for just like specifically for today. And because it's a little long and it kind of goes on, I'm just going to summarize it. So the title is, "For the Last Time, My Podcast Co-Host Is Not a Parrot." How many times do I have to repeat it? Love the title. It is so strong. And so what happens is, essentially, as you can see here, it's saying someone is a main host is saying we reached 1,000 listeners and followers, but some of you, there are some rumors that my co-host is a parrot. Let me dispel the rumors. So, and they basically say they have their own thoughts and opinions. They just happen to agree with mine 100% of the time. And, they agree with me by reiterating in the ground multiple times. And then they're from a foreign country. But what's interesting, notice this. Also, Polly is from a foreign country you've probably never heard of. And English is her fifth language. So her voice may sound parrot-like to people who have no life experience outside the rock they live under. Now, I'm going to stop there because it kind of goes into that pattern where it's like pointing something, and then it gets a bit insulting. And then we figure out at the end, after all these analogies of like, it's like Polly likes crackers, and you hear like ruffling of feathers, but it might be a dress, etc. And then we find out at the end that the host that's saying all this they're saying they're not a pirate, but please make sure to listen next time to the Golden Advice with Peg Leg Jones. So clearly they were a pirate. So let me show you some quick ideas I had. So first off, again, with the tag, put humor. And then a lot of people don't do it a lot, again, with subtitles, but I would punch up the subtitle. It's a separate joke that doesn't have to be a part of the piece and is undervalued, and actually can make people can make readers go, oh, wow, they put a little extra time to have this little separate joke that can amplify the title. It doesn't have to be better than the title, but just supports the title and the piece. So here's my main note I had with this. So with the parrot stuff, I would say punch up the specificity more about what the parrot is doing, and even more allegories of how the parrot is very similar to what a human co-host would be. Just someone who, at least what the title tells me, my co-host is not a parrot. The allegory, the promise that we're given is, we're going to get an allegory of how like a co-host for a podcast is like a parrot, because like the cage match, we all want validation, And it's also hard to talk, like say something against what your hierarchy or your other host is saying. And no one really likes conflict. So you're just in this echo chamber, no matter what you're saying, even if it's about finance bros or about like drinking like 13 vitamin pills to be like your ultimate Super Saiyan self. So I would say with all those places, I would punch up. And you see all these highlighted places I put. So look at how the verbiage is. It says, you know, my bad, for example, my bad. I didn't realize this podcast was a xenophobic hotspot. And oh, the so-called, that's right. And you just likened her to a bird. Unbelievable. So when it comes to, exactly, Lori, well done. So that is the perfect word. So when it get combative, it's when this usually happens when people want to be sarcastic, which is a very American style way of humor. If you think about it, British humor does have a little sarcasm, but if you watch things like Hot Fuzz, for example, or even the Hugh and Laurie show, a lot of it is deadpan because they're just saying like, "Oh yes, this is very fun." Whereas, at least in American humor, it can be very like it seems like there's a lot of other things said under the surface. Yes. And so I would say with all that, there's a game I like to play with myself called, and I'm excuse my language, but am I being an asshole? Where you go through your piece, and if you realize you're being combative, or if you're reading through and it seems like it's a little harsh, just ask like, am I being an asshole? And then honestly, go the Ted Lasso way. Honestly, try to go about being positive. I promise you, it takes more work, but it really does pay off in the end because people want to read that again. Yeah. Kill with kindness. And it also, if you're looking at the context of this, they just reached 1,000 followers. The last thing you want to do is to shun your audience. You want to be like professional. And when you're professional in that regard, like saying like, I would like to talk about some triggering things that have happened for my partner, Polly, my co-host, and they're eating a saltine cracker right now and they just feel a little beat at all this. Yeah. So walk in love and to be able to like be professional. And when you do that, the jokes stand out more because you're being calm. You're technically in comedy terms, the straight man. And then the Polly stuff, all this other stuff, that's the silly stuff going on the outside. Exactly, Ken. Treat ridiculous stuff like it's normal, or fish out of water. Essentially, you're the straight, and like things around you are crazy, and sometimes it can be reversed. So we're kind of we are near the end, which is crazy. I cannot believe this is happening. But I would also say with that last piece, because it's a pirate, one thing I would say with that edit is it's cute, the pirate being the reveal, like, oh, it's a pirate podcast. If you were to go that route to make it like make more allegories to how it's a pirate and they're on a pirate ship and there's this parrot and make more of like it's hard to have a co-host. And then if you wanted to go focus more on how co-hosts are just echo chambers, have the main character be just a regular person who talks about crazy things everyone's already heard about, finances, etc., and just focus more on how the parrot is just an echo chamber. I can't believe we're already near the end of this, which is super crazy. So before I go, I just want to say thank you so much. There's a lot of people watching right now, more than I expected. So this really means a lot to me that you spent your time, your half hour to chat with me. And thank you so much, Emma. And what I'll say is please make sure to read Greener Pastures on medium.com to listen to us, the Greener Pastures podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. And I have my own show called SOS Humanity, Earth's Last Distress Signal, where you can listen to wherever on podcasts. And if you ever have ideas that you want to send there, please send an email on the website, soshumanitypod.com. And I believe that is it, which is crazy. Yes, thank you so much again. I'm just kind of like waiting down the clock until things close down. But I'm so glad all of you got to be able to get something out of this. Yes, and if I can't wait to be able to read your pieces along with my other editors. And if you have other questions, please reach out. Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, everybody. Hope you have a great rest of your time. Please watch some other great moderators.